Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. It is Coach Fury here, and I am back today with another episode of our Let's Play series with Michigan here in the online league of the CBGM for Draft Day Sports Pro Basketball 21. Well, last time we came across and talked a little bit about recruiting, a little bit about our targets, and we obviously successfully was able to recruit Peter Graves, who is going to be, I think, a fantastic prospect for us. And we kind of went through a little bit of why we think he is going to be beneficial to this team. And we've been very successful with our second recruiting scholarship offer. We have managed to secure our other second target, which is Colin Brown, who I think we may have talked a little about last time. But, you know, it looks like he's going to be a really good all-round player for us. And as I may have said, he is going to be a interesting prospect to see how he does when he joins us. He is a really good all-round player. That's what I really liked about him. He has an outside shot. He can handle the ball, which is essential. I can't remember the amount of times I've talked on this series so far about how terrible some of the ball handling ability is for some of the backcourt guys. And well, he is quite lowly ranked actually. I mean, by region he's only 11th. He's dropped 5 spots, and he's only the 186th prospect overall in the recruiting class. So, you know, we've had to dig down a little bit deeper to try and find someone like this. But I'm really excited to get him on the team. He's pretty much okay at everything by the looks of it in terms of his ratings. He's not going to be elite at anything really. He's going to have an outside shot. He's going to be able to handle and pass the ball, play a bit of defense, do a bit of scoring and a bit of stealing and shot blocking and rebounding, and you know, a good size at 6'4" for a guard. So I'm hopeful that he's going to be able to play sort of all the positions from sort of point guard, shooting guard, small forward. Is kind of where I see him going. He was a guy who was a top 25 player at Chicago, which to me indicates that he is going to be a good player out the bat. He is only rated as a 3-star prospect for some reason. He was a 4-star prospect when we started recruiting him. So I'm surprised to see that he's dropped down so much. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe that's due to interest, etc. But you can see a lot of guys, all of their stars have dropped now, which is interesting. So it means that basically we've got Peter Graves, who's going to be a good all-round frontcourt player, and we've got Colin Brown, who I think is going to be a good all-round backcourt player, which is kind of where we need to go with this Michigan team, if I'm honest. As I may have said several times before, we do have some elite talent already, which we'll look to try and nurture and use. You know, Bernie Sweetwine, the likes of Scotty Osler, and Larry Beek is only for this season. But, you know, we've got Marky Okona, who's going to be a good player for us as well. So I'm hopeful that these guys don't all declare. You know, we've got Michael Belaires as well, who's a pretty good frontcourt player as well. And my plan really with this team is just to try and keep rotating around and getting the depth pieces in, because I've said a couple of times, I think, on these episodes, that the team that we have at the moment is very, very top heavy. We have a really, really good starting 5, as you can see here. But below that, you know, outside of the likes of Daniel and maybe Buchanan, we are pretty slim in most areas. So if we can make that rotation, hopefully going forward into a solid 8-man, 9-man rotation for the season, that to me I think is going to be a much stronger proposition for us as a Michigan team than maybe chasing those 5 stars. We might not get them, we might struggle, and we might end up, you know, having to go even further down the recruiting rankings to find guys at last minute. So that's kind of a quick update in terms of recruiting stuff. In terms of other things that have been going on, there's not been a lot really. I mean, we've sorted out the coach assignments, which we did done before. We sorted out the training practice plan. That's all underway and all ready to go, to be honest with you. The other thing that's the big news that's happened is that if we go to our inbox here, you can see that practice has begun, but the scheduling has also occurred as well. And I think we may have covered it before, but I basically said to our coach, our assistant, in terms of scheduling, get us some away games, get us some good, you know, interesting games to play away, but don't make them too hard. And I think they've actually done that. It's been pretty good. We've obviously got an interesting one where we're playing Nevada back to back, which is odd. I'm not sure why that's happening. They've got sort of a bunch of, you know, random teams really that probably are not going to be ranked. So hopefully pick ourselves up and get some cohesion going, get some wins going. You know, get us used to the rotation that we need to set before we come against some really good teams in the likes of Duke towards the end of December, well, middle of December. and then we sort of dive into our sort of conference games, to be honest with you, after that point. So I'm excited for this. I'm quite comfortable with the actual schedule we've got. I deliberately have not gone for a hard schedule because for us it's really about us getting those wins on the board, because obviously, you know, looking at our targets for this year that's been set, we have to win 20 games. Obviously we're not going to be fired because it's an online league, but I still like to try and go against those because that's a nice target to set. So in order for us to win those 20 games, we've got to have a good set of initial sort of exhibition games before we get into the conference series and the conference games, because there are some really tough teams in our conference. As everyone knows, the Big Ten is a tough conference to deal with. So, you know, the real test for us, I think, Nevada's going to be a good one. I think Nevada's actually a pretty good team when I looked at them. They're not terrible, but they're okay. They've got a couple of good players. I would say are good like rotation players in comparison to us. We should still, you know, get a good result against them. But the real biggest test is obviously we're going to be up against Duke, and Duke have a pretty good roster at this stage. They have got Brian Felix, Linton Morley, who are, you know, leading this team, but they've got quite a nice sort of supporting cast in Harold Knight, Travis Martin, Nathan Christie. They've got sort of 8 or 9 players who will be in the rotation for them. Obviously, Worley's going to be sort of the main thing, and Felix, who's just a really, really good point guard. Ball handling ability is still low, but he's a really good point guard outside of that. He's a great defender, great scorer. So that's going to be a good test for us, because we are, in my opinion, sort of our weakest position is point guard. So we'll see how we stack up against a team when they are running an elite point guard, and that's going to give us a good insight to whether we need to change our defensive strategy if we come up against teams like that, or teams that have a good center. So that's where we've got up to in terms of the recruiting class. Quick update, a bit about schedule. We've obviously started in practice, as you can see here from our inbox, that practice has begun. So we've got 6 weeks before to sort of get that sorted, which we've already got that in place. We've talked a little bit about that. And you can see some of the other guys that I've thrown sort of camp visits to, or sort of home visits to and pictures to, and sort of just in case we didn't get anyone in this recruiting class out of the 2 targets that we had when we looked at it all. But pretty happy with where we're sitting. We are all set now for the season. We'll get our rotation sorted going forward, seeing how that looks, seeing how that fits in, looking at schedule. We're obviously going to then get into this. And the only other thing that I've got to do really between now and sort of, I think, November, December time, is that I am planning to probably give Sean Singletary a red shirt. I think we're not going to use him as effectively this year. We need him to develop, and outside of that, if the likes of Sweetwine or Belair's decide to declare for the draft, we need that sort of insurance policy, because we do have Keith Daniel going off and we do have Graves coming in there, but we probably do need another guy who's going to sort of hopefully hang around, develop, and be a good player next season, really. My assumption at the moment is probably that obviously Beak is obviously going to go, Daniel's going to go, and I think probably one of Osler, Belair's, or Sweetwine will probably also declare for the draft, if I'm honest. But we'll see. If I had to pick out of those, I think it's probably going to be Scotty Osler that's going to declare, just because he is a freshman and he's already elite. Sweetwine being a junior, maybe we'll get lucky and he might stay for 4 years. That would be awesome, because that would basically give us a lockdown position there. Him and Graves in there will be awesome together in terms of that rotation. So that's where we are with Michigan. We'll come back probably next time when we talk a little bit about practice, maybe a bit about rotations and how we're setting that up. But obviously we've got a little bit of a way to go now from October until November, until the actual games start. But we'll obviously come back when the games start, and we may watch them live. We may talk about how they've been going. But yeah, how do you guys think I've been doing? I mean, do you think this was the right guys to go after in the recruiting class? We've talked about some different players, some different 5-star guys we looked at. Is this the right strategy? Would you guys have chased 5-star guys and hoped to see if you could have recruited them? Interested to hear your thoughts. But yeah, we'll be back next time, talk a little bit more Michigan, a little bit more about the season and about the actual guys we have on the roster at the moment.